Ever wondered why a beloved horror franchise suddenly ditched its iconic name for a sequel only to regret it later? It's a tale of ambition, marketing mishaps, and the unpredictable world of cinema that might just make you rethink how studios handle cult classics. Stick around, because this story isn't just about a movie. It's about the clash between artistic passion and commercial pressures. But here's where it gets controversial. Was dropping The Evil Dead title a savvy move to broaden appeal, or a short-sighted mistake that alienated the very fans who made the series special? Let's dive in and unpack the fascinating backstory behind Sam Raimi's Army of Darkness. Picture this: Sam Raimi, a fresh-faced director from Detroit, dreaming big in the world of filmmaking. Back in the early 1980s, he and his buddy Bruce Campbell were just regular guys from working-class roots, scraping together every penny they could to craft a horror flick. They hustled relentlessly, borrowing money from friends and family, and somehow amassed a modest $375,000 budget. With rented 16mm cameras and a lot of enthusiasm, they filmed a chilling tale of supernatural terror set in a remote cabin, complete with homemade gore using red-colored corn syrup sprayed everywhere. For beginners in film history, this is a classic example of DIY movie making. Think of it as the ultimate bootstrap success story, where creativity triumphed over lack of resources. The film, titled The Evil Dead, slowly gained traction and exploded into a hit, raking in $2.4 million domestically and a whopping $27 million overseas. Raimi was suddenly a name to watch, proving that grassroots efforts could break into the big leagues. Buoyed by that success, Raimi directed a sequel remake in 1987 called Evil Dead 2: Dead by Dawn. It retold the same core story, with Campbell reprising his role, but cranked up the comedy and silliness to new heights, making it feel like a wild, slapstick ride. Budgeted at a more lavish $3.5 million, it appealed to fans who loved the over-the-top humor amid the horror. Yet despite critical acclaim and its status as a horror fan's all-time favorite among horror enthusiasts, it flopped at the box office, earning only $5.9 million. This highlights a key lesson for aspiring filmmakers. Sometimes a film's true value shines through on home video long after theaters forget it. The pair's fortunes eventually grew thanks to that home market, but the initial theatrical disappointment set the stage for what came next. Fast forward to 1993, and Raimi's third installment entered a new chapter. Originally envisioned as Evil Dead 3, it was rebranded as Army of Darkness to appeal to a wider crowd. In a 1992 interview with Cinefantastique magazine, Raimi's longtime producer Robert Tapert explained the reasoning behind the shift. Universal Pictures, the major studio footing part of the bill for its $11 million production, insisted on shedding the Evil Dead moniker. Why? The franchise's theatrical track record was spotty, with Evil Dead 2 seen as a flop despite its video success. Universal feared the name would turn off mainstream audiences, so they opted for a fresh title to attract newcomers. Tapert put it bluntly, the studio wanted to distance the film from past associations, betting that fans would recognize it as a sequel, while others saw it as a standalone adventure. For those unfamiliar with the plot, Army of Darkness plunges viewers into a surreal, hilarious journey. Picking up right where Evil Dead 2 left off, Bruce Campbell's character, Ash Williams, accidentally transports himself back to the 14th century via a magical book. Armed with his chainsaw hand and a bad attitude, he becomes a self-proclaimed hero in a medieval world, battling an army of undead skeletons and a doppelganger version of himself. It's packed with over-the-top slapstick, time travel antics, and effects that were groundbreaking for the time. Think rubber skeletons coming to life in epic battles. The movie's blend of horror and comedy makes it a riot, but its eccentric tone, rapid pacing, like a caffeinated cartoon, and bizarre premise made it tough to market broadly. And this is the part most people miss. Without the Evil Dead label, did it really reach the masses, or did it just confuse potential viewers? Tapert and Campbell were optimistic about the title change, believing it would draw in a bigger audience. As Campbell recalled in interviews, the original themes had a niche cult following, small but dedicated. To clarify for newcomers, a cult film is one that builds a passionate fan base over time, often through word of mouth and repeat viewings, rather than massive opening weekends. Think of it as the difference between a blockbuster, like Star Wars, seen by millions in theaters, versus a hidden gem, like The Room, adored by a devoted few who watch it endlessly. Campbell argued that Army of Darkness could escape the cult stigma and become more accessible, potentially turning it into a wider hit. But in reality, the film only grossed $21.5 million, falling short of expectations. Critics praised its humor and creativity, yet the disconnect from the Evil Dead brand seemed to hurt it at the box office. Was Universal right to push for the change? Or did it backfire by alienating the core horror crowd who might have embraced a direct sequel? Of course, time has a way of rewriting narratives. Just like its predecessors, Army of Darkness blossomed on home video, becoming a timeless cult classic that continues to delight fans with its absurdity and charm. The irony is delicious. The Evil Dead name, once a drawback in Universal's eyes, has since become a golden ticket. In 2013, a polished remake brought in $97.5 million, followed by a TV series, Ash vs. Evil Dead, and a 2023 sequel, Evil Dead Rise. Even a new film, Evil Dead Burn, is in the works. What was once viewed as a franchise curse has transformed into a lucrative blessing, proving that some stories just need time to find their audience. This raises some fascinating debates. Do studios owe it to niche franchises to protect their brand identity, even if it risks limiting reach? Or is experimenting with titles a necessary gamble in an industry obsessed with broad appeal? For instance, consider how other series, like the Blair Witch Project, evolved. Did shedding horror tropes help or hinder them? And here's a controversial twist. Some fans argue that Army of Darkness's standalone vibe actually made it more innovative, freeing it from the shackles of expectations. What do you think? Should Raimi have fought harder for Evil Dead 3? Or was the rebrand a stroke of genius that just needed hindsight to appreciate? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you side with Universal's marketing strategy? Or do you believe cult films thrive best when they stay true to their roots? Let's discuss.